And as I said, over the last year or so, he's got a bit closer, I think, to the level that we've been expecting him to reach for a number of years now. Kledio Kaçi, still a little bit of an unknown quantity. Just how good is he going to turn out to be? Well, all the indications so far are that he's got enormous potential. It's Styer who's won the lag, and he's going to get us started. Race to 9. Whoever gets there will go through to the last 64 tomorrow. And the other player will be back later today for another go in losers qualification. But remember, if you come through on that side, you've got to face someone who's come through on the winner's side. So you really want to get through undefeated. Here we go then. Tyler Styer starts us off.
Yeah, and right away, in my opinion, has the potential to break the balls as good as anybody from America, if not the world. Got a little unlucky with the kiss off the 9. Ended up down here below the 8. He's going to have to roll out, I believe. I can't tell if he can see enough of the 2 to play it. And even if he could, well, the 8 is covering the 3 up from anywhere up table. Yeah, and you can see here, he is clearly hooked or snookered, so he's going to have to figure something out. I don't mind coming to this lower left corner, actually, because of where the 8's at, and challenging your opponent. I don't know about the lower right corner, because your opponent can cross this ball to the top right, come back down and use the purple and yellow as cover. I don't think he's going to pass this up. You can definitely cross it past the green 6, bring the cue ball back down and use cover. Whereas if you put that cue ball down on the lower left side, it makes things a lot more difficult for Kledio.
Kledio Kaçi, 18 years of age. Born in 2006. Can you believe there's anyone who has a date of birth in 2006, Scott?
Yeah, I don't even, I can't even compute that anymore. And see, this is the shot, Michael, that I was discussing. He hit it a little thinner than I thought he would, because if you catch it full, you get close to making it, and you're definitely going to keep it there for the cover. Neither here nor there, not terrible, but Tyler is real good at chipping off the edge of these balls from distance and coming back around behind the 3 and 8. If he decides to take that on, he might just kick and stick behind the 2. He might even bank at the 2. I don't know.
Styer might feel like the old man in this match, but he's far from it. Won't be 30 until January of next year. Ranked number 28 in the world, which is a climb of 13 places on the start of the year. And he actually climbed 20 spots in the course of last year, so you can see he's steadily picking his way up through the rankings.
Yeah, and if there's anything I think he's lacking in this game is his defense. I don't know if I'm bringing the 2 down here around the 3. He's got to hit this well, and he has hit it well, but if he doesn't get it all the way down, I think the return is pretty heavy for Kledio. Luckily for Styer, the 2 close to frozen on this bottom rail makes things much more difficult. But he's got a lot of cover, Michael. He can use the 5, the 9, the 8. If he decided to bank the 2 back up to the top left side. And that's what he's done. And needs it to run, though. Not a lot of future here. The problem is still the black 8. If you went ahead and just tried to cinch the 2, you'd really be gambling on position. There is a gap up there where he's putting his cue. Problem is, the other problem is he's elevated over the 3. Is the defensive play as good as the offensive play? That's where he's got to weigh those decisions out. I think he's going to stay aggressive. because he's so steep on this, meaning he could almost bank it in the lower right corner of our screen, it's real tough to get away from the two in a defensive play. Tyler's a straight shooter. He's hampered over the 3. If he played it to the top right corner, he'd have to hold the cue ball for the gap or come back and across. Oh, wow. That's a real good sign if you're in the Styer camp. Kind of a two-way play as well. Utilized the 5 and 9 for cover. But he didn't need cover. He hit it clean. Needs to take full advantage of that big shot there. Make sure everything he does is right. If he gets out this rack, he'll definitely send a message to his opponent. You just want to get out somewhere. He'd be thrilled to be just below the 5. So he's going to have to create something. Might come around 3 rails below and then above the 4. I think you're safer to just draw it out 2 rails, just above where you would rack the balls. Okay, he's using the bridge like Corey Deuel has taught a lot of players in the United States. More like a regular pool cue than a bridge. The way he'll hold it, now he's going back to the traditional route. Yeah, 2 rails out. That needs to roll. It's going to be a little weak.
I think everyone would agree, Styer himself more than anyone, that his accomplishments in the game so far have not been what we would have expected of him. He's certainly got the potential to do an awful lot more. And so often for him it's been an issue killing off matches. He often gets put on the main table, so we do see a lot of him. And so often he starts off a match well, puts himself in a winning position, and then it almost feels like he just wants it so much that he can't get over the line.
Yeah, it's well noted. He has been close many times. He did win a big tournament last year at Texas Open, maybe almost 2 years ago now.
No, it was last year.
Okay.
Yeah, back in September, yeah.
It was a good tournament. Really tough field. Played solid all the way through. But to your point, looks to me like he should win more tournaments he needs. A good rub here. Not terrible. He can stay aggressive, Michael, if he'd like. I think the bank is probably a better option than the cut, these side pockets. Boy, they're not forgiving.
I think he is improving in a sense in terms of just relaxing a bit more. I had a nice chat with him at the UK Open. Well, every chat with Tyler's a nice one. He's such a nice lad. And he was saying he's just very happy in life, and that's helping him in his game, and starting to show through a bit more, but you still feel there's an awful lot of improvement that could potentially lie ahead for him.
Yeah, he banked it long. He doesn't play the mixed games, really, meaning one pocket or bank pool. He's pretty strictly rotation. Gotta wonder. He initially looked at cutting that ball, Michael, so I'm just curious if he second thought the decision. This was a big opportunity slipped away if Kledio takes advantage. Very reminiscent of his elder brother.
It's always an interesting thing, isn't it, when you have a well-known player in a sport and then a younger sibling comes through. You wonder at what point they'll stop being referred to just as the younger brother, younger sister, whatever.
And that's a valid point. I've watched this young man pretty closely on screen. I've actually watched him on YouTube. I know that Eklund's had his accident and he's dealing with some things. He's on his way to recovery and he's back playing, and we're grateful for that. I feel like this young man is playing at a level that a lot of people don't realize. I think he's playing real close to his elder brother.
Yeah, and I guess it's because of the fact that Kaçi has achieved so much in the game that makes it harder to step out of the shadow. But it's also funny, isn't it, how often in various sports you see someone who's well known and then a younger relative comes through and they end up actually being a much bigger star.
Well, look at Ko Ping-chung. Ko Ping-chung was always in his brother's shadows, and now it seems like for a solid, well, ever since the U.S. Open at least, he has really stood out as the better player. Now, Ko Ping-yi, clearly a star. They're both stars.
I think perhaps the most famous example in all of sport would be Venus Williams, who came through and people said she's going to be one of the best in the world, and then her younger sister turned out to be arguably the best of all time in women's tennis. So this for 1-0. Very solid stuff there from Kledio Kaçi getting out, and he takes the opening rack against Tyler Styer. Lots happening already on the other tables. Konrad Yushin has got a couple on the board already against Oliver Szolnocki, so that one's 2-0. The defending champion Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has won the first rack against Kyle Amoroto. Alexander Kazakis 1-0 up against Levan Corteza. It's 1-1 between Dimitri Yungo and Kuo Po Cheng. Now Chris Melling, who as I've said is struggling to walk today and has been to hospital this morning, well, it hasn't stopped him going 1-0 up on Lucius Yap. Marco Teucher also leading 1-0 against Pong Nam Pham. Dennis Grab has won the first rack against Daniel Maciol. Ko Ping Han 1-0 up against Abdullah Al-Shamari. 1-1 between Jason Shaw and Johan Chua. And a couple of past winners of this title. Ralph Souquet has won the first rack against Hona Suto, and Ko Ping-yi has done the same against a former World Championship runner-up, Roland Garcia. We saw the difference there, didn't we, Scott, between these two players in the first rack. Tyler takes a long time over it, very intense. Kledio Kaçi gets to the table, very fluent, very efficient, very technically sound, and just cleans up for 1-0.
Well, you brought something up there, and I think Tyler and I have had this conversation before. I think he's his own worst enemy, like most of us, but if he just flowed a little bit more, maybe a little bit better sometimes, and we talked about it all day yesterday, it's easy to talk yourself out of things. Tyler plays real good when he's in rhythm. Well, this is another good sign for the Kaçi camp. He nor his brother lacking in the great break department. And I wouldn't be surprised that he takes a look at banking this too and just bringing the cue ball backwards. I know he's got to cut it a little bit to the thin side of the two, meaning the cue ball is going to travel towards the center diamond if he draws it. But I think it's valuable. I think it's worth it. And he's young. I don't know that he's considering safe. There is a great defensive play. You can chip the two towards the bottom side of the right middle, bring the cue ball one rail, and really butter him up under the three. That play is completely available. But this young man has other ideas.
He has had some matches against his older brother. They actually played in a final, the Pristina Open. And I think Kledio was only about 15 at the time, but he won.
Yeah, not surprised. And he's, at his age, Kledio, he's still improving literally as he's at the table. So it's hard to gauge how good somebody like this actually plays because we're witnessing improvement as he goes. Really, there's no limits. He's got some work to do. He's pretty flat here, Michael. He's got to probably come 2 rails forward to get out below the 8 for the pink 4 in the top right. Yeah, somewhere like that. And that's how flat he is on this 3. He'll be thrilled to get anywhere around where you rack the balls. Oof. Didn't like what I saw there. A little quick. Yeah, he's recovered well with the stroke. Transition looked great. Now he's got options. He could punch 2 rails around the black and yellow, or he could just rail down towards the purple. Playing for the 5 next on the pink to the top right. And he chose the 1 rail route. There's nothing wrong with it. Probably easier to make the ball that way. Now he's got the same option. You can come 2 rails or 1 rail. I think 2 rails you really avoid the 8, but it's all player preference. And he did clip the 8, but never really a threat. Making it look easy, Michael.
Yeah, he's a bit of a Q Sports all-rounder. He's a very good snooker player. In fact, he's been to the quarter-finals of the World Junior Championship. Now, you have to have a very good standard, and one of the players he beat along the way was Ben Mertens from Belgium, who's gone on to become a very good professional snooker player himself. And it was thought for a time that was the road he was going to go down. But the things I've been hearing recently suggest he's decided the pool is actually the future for him.
He's landed just a fraction off of straight. Just wants to get nice and tight to the 8. He's done well with it. Probably just stop here. I don't see any other risks. The 9 covering the top left. And just like that, opportunities come and go. Tyler Styer had it in game number 1. Well, that opportunity has long passed him.
And Kledio Kaçi went on that remarkable run to the last 16 of the Spanish Open last summer. He beat Tyler Styer along the way. And he's off and running very nicely in his quest to defeat the American again. Kledio Kaçi eases into a 2-0 lead. Now, we said at the start that the defending champion Francisco Sanchez Ruiz faced a very tough challenge today against the young Philippines player Kyle Amoroto. Well, Amoroto's just levelled that one at 1-1. Alexander Kazakis now 2-0 up against Lee Van Corteza. Dimitri Jungo and Kuo Po Cheng are 1-1. Same score between Lucius Yap and Chris Melling. Marco Teutschers won the first 2 racks against Pong Nam Pham. Jason Shaw winning rack 3 to now lead Johan Chua 2-1. Ralph Souquet, 28 years after he won this championship, now leads 2-0 over Honus Suto, and it's 1-1 between Roland Garcia and Ko Pin Yi. Kuo Po Cheng, who I mentioned there, level with Dimitri Jungo at 1-1. He is the only player to have been in the final of this championship more than once without ever winning it. You can impress people with that, Scott.
Yeah, I would guess that's a good thing, but at the same time, and could be a little treacherous for him in the mental side. Take another look. Kledio's break. Am I pronouncing that right, Michael?
Absolutely perfectly, Scott. As ever.
Thank you. I've got to say, for the people at home, this guy rattles names off of these players from different parts of the world and is fascinating. I can barely say my own name, let alone all of these.
Just say it quickly, Scott, and nobody ever notices anything wrong.
Well, interesting. He made 2 balls on the first break. Rattled the 1 in the left middle this time. Caught it just a fraction thin, it looked like to me. Tyler, gonna have a good look here at the 1. Pink 4 kind of causing problems. The 1-2 rail look to the center middle pocket, or the lower middle pocket for the blue 2, not really available. So he's got to either go into the green 6 or somehow hold his cue ball for the 2 in the corner. I guess if he wanted to take the 2-rail line, he could drop down somewhere below the 4 and 3, take a cut on the 2, and to make matters worse for Styer, he's over the 5. I like the pace. Really good shot there. From where he was, you couldn't hit that ball any better. So Styer's come with 2 great shots in this match. Failed to score yet. But he's looking at the 3-9 following this 2 ball. Yeah, looked real good there as well, Michael. There you have it. 3-9 combination.
And a quick kill for Tyler Styer. So Kledio Kaçi looked very impressive in the previous rack. Tyler Styer gets off and running, very swiftly winning rack 3.
Yeah, so nice recoveries for Styer there, right? After a little bit of a blunder in game number 1, missing the bank. His coach is here, by the way, Johan Rusnik. Shout out to Johan, one of the best coaches in the world. I will tell you, I talked to Styer about an hour ago outside the venue. He's had food poisoning for 4 straight days. Believes he's lost around 6 or 7 pounds. He's gotten past it, Michael. But you've got to wonder what kind of toll that'll play on him today.
Well, it takes it out of you mentally and energy-wise, and we've talked earlier on about how he's sometimes struggled to close out matches, and all those things could come into play later. Kyle Amoroto, by the way, is now 2-1 up against the defending champion Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. Tyler Styer breaking 2-1 down.
Look for the 1 in the left middle. And he is very good at that. He's going to get a shot on the blue 2. What is the 5 going to do to the 3? And that is a patented break. Cue ball 2 rails directly into the 9. So that is the problem. The 5 has covered the 3 up in a lot of different ways. He can come backwards. That's what he's looking at now for the 3 in the right middle. Problem is, you've got to be careful. You do not want to come back too far. The 8 is a big ball, so you're going to have to take a cut on the 3. He looks so young, Kledio.
He does, but doesn't he carry himself with such maturity? He really feels like an adult.
Yeah, like his brother. His brother does carry himself with pure class as well. This was shot directly into the rail. He's going to get away with something here. And that's something we've noticed over the years in the United States with Tyler, is he will tend to get a little heated at times. I think that's going to play a big factor in how the outcome ends up here today.
We saw Kledio Kaçi in the only previous Matchroom big field event that's taken place so far in 2024, the UK Open. He made it through undefeated into the last 64, was then beaten by Petri Mäkinen, which felt like a bit of a surprise at the time, actually, given the impact Kaçi made at the Spanish Open. But of course, Mäkinen went on to the semi-finals.
Yeah, so I think he's looking to draw the cue ball back and behind the 8, but what his concern is fluking something in and snookering himself, I think, here. Yeah, so he's going to go a different route. He's going to chip the 2 behind the 3 and 5, come up behind the 6. Well, he's decelerated. He's got to get there first. Okay, no broken bones.
Styer was a regular participant in the single elimination stage of events like this during 2023. He was in the last 64 of the World Championship in Poland last year. His best run in any of those events in 23 was at the European Open in Germany back in August, got to the last 16.
Well, we know he can see at least half of this ball. Can't tell exactly where he's going with it. Maybe just trying to come straight up between the pink and purple. And that's what he's done. Well, he's made a great strike here. Yeah, very good sign for Styer.
Kledio Kaçi is here after knocking out a 2-time winner of the World Championship in the previous round, Torsten Homan.
I like the time that he's taking on this shot. A lot of people will just, look for a spot to play it and carry on. He's really trying to think this out. I think that's a great sign. I don't know if it's time to jump at this versus the kick. You've got to understand when it's best, and so he's going to go to the jump cue. He was just measuring that out with his playing cue, and now he is going airborne. So he must have a plan. I feel like you could get good separation kicking at this ball. If you hit it thin or thick, separation comes. Here, just watch for the double kiss and scratch. Very possible. Oh, well, I don't know if he's played the double kiss to bring the cue all the way back down, but if he has, this was a genius shot.
Just looking at that close-up we saw there of Tyler in his chair, he's already looking a bit anxious and intense, and it's only the 4th rack.
Yeah, he kind of carries that intensity with him all the time, and it does build into a negative intensity at times. Too early for that. He's played solid so far. He's just missed a bank. Nothing major. Nobody's going to play perfect in this format. There's a good look at Johan Rusnik. The right hand of your screen right there. Taking notes. Looking to come 3 rails here. Oh, well done. Needs to travel just a little. Couldn't hit it much better than that.
Heroic stuff going on from Chris Melling on table 2. As I said, he can barely walk today. He's been to hospital this morning. Well, he's leading 3-2 against Lucius Jaap.
Maybe it was a ruse.
Yeah.
The old rope-a-dope, Michael.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it, though. It looks very genuine, and he's doing well to be playing at all. I don't know if you've seen him today, Scott, but he really is struggling to move at all.
That's unfortunate. He's a pretty good friend of mine, so I actually had no idea until you just mentioned it. He needs a good rub. He got it. He's gotten a decent rub. That wasn't easy by any means. These middle pockets, well, they'd like to avoid them if they could. This is a big opportunity, Michael, for Tyler. Needs to take advantage. He came with a great shot on the 2. And Nice shot on the 3. Needs to get good here on this 5. Pretty straightforward after that. That's going to be good.
Just thinking about Chris Melling, you know, if he does advance and ends up playing with a shot clock at some stage, it's going to be almost impossible for him.
What exactly is wrong?
Yeah, it's just, I think he said he woke up with it, that there's just real intense pain in his foot. So I do know then he was going to hospital after that, and I did see him then when I got to the venue, and he said he's been given something, but he didn't look to be moving any better. So to try and play 30 seconds a shot when you can barely move at all, even for Chris, who's a fairly fast player, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, and what table is he on in here, Michael?
He's over on table 2, just at the far side of the arena there.
So he's taking a lot of time here, and this is kind of what we discussed before. I've seen this in money matches with Tyler as well, where I think he could just carry on with this. This is, you know, he knows what he needs to do. Yeah, it's well done. He's going to punch one rail out. Unless he's real flat, I think he's got the angle to punch out. Better to go too far than not far enough. You do not want to flirt with the yellow and black. Well, he tends to do things that aren't necessary at times. He's coming 3 rails here. And he's hit it great, but he had the angle where he could punch out 1 rail. Most players are probably going to take that route. Tyler Styer, he likes to poke the bear. He likes to stroke the ball, puts himself in situations at times where he can allow a mistake.
Now, having landed nicely on the 7, you would think this would be fairly routine from here. So Tyler Styer was 2-0 down. He's levelled at 2-2 against Kledio Kaçi. Alexander Kazakis of Greece is the early leader in the race to be first player through to single elimination, currently leading Lee Van Corteza 4-1. Last year's winner of this championship, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, level now at 2-2 with Kyle Amoroto. Same score between Oliver Szolnocki and Konrad Yusushin. Kwo Po Cheng now 2-1 up on Dmitry Yungo. Marco Teucher leads Pongnam Pham 3-1. Dennis Graba ahead by the same score against Daniel Maciol, and Ko Ping Han also 3-1 against Abdullah Al-Shamari. Jason Shaw has a 3-1 lead as well against Johan Chua. Ralph Souquet 2-1 up on Honasuto Kumino. And Ko Pin Yi, winner of the championship 9 years ago, leading Roland Garcia 3-1. The other Kaçi, Eklund, will be in action a little later against Mickey Kraus in this round. BJ Ussery against Hunter Lombardo, both players in maybe that sort of second or third tier of Americans. They'll be playing each other. Shane Van Boning, who's right up in the top tier of American players, against Francesco Candela. Darren Appleton, Ko Ping Chung, clash of US Open winners. All these matches coming up later. We'll have Billy Thorpe and Moritz Neuhausen on this table next. Anton Raga against Alexa Pechelge. So just everywhere you look, wonderful matches all afternoon here. And we're enjoying this one 2-2 as Styer breaks in rack 5.
Yeah, and they're only going to get better. The 1 directly in. The 2 kissed the 9 out of the way, so he didn't get the kiss on the 9. Watch the 2 here. Kisses the 9 directly out of the way, so he doesn't get the cue ball to kiss the 9. If it did, he comes away with a real good shot on the 2. Well, that didn't happen. I can't tell if he can see enough of this to bank it or cut it. But he missed the last bank he played on the blue 2. Time for redemption. Doesn't look like it from this angle that he can get enough of it. But his body language tells me he might be able to. Shaking his head in a negative manner. It's pretty straightforward. If you can see it, you can see it. If you can't, he's going to be forced to push. Well, he's missed it again, and clearly he could see enough of that ball. He banked it short. I wonder, does Tyler talk himself out of certain scenarios?
You get the sense a lot of conversations go on in Tyler's head that, for the most part, don't tend to help him.
No, and if you're his coach, Johan Rusnik, I wonder if they've discussed his flow, because I've seen Tyler when he's in stroke, and he just gets flowing. You know, he's just a real fluid player, so accurate. In my opinion, I've thought for a long time he had the potential to be one of the top players on the planet, like literally one of the top players on the planet with his fundamentals and his work ethic. As you and I have discussed, it just seems like he never really gets there.
You would have to think it's something they've discussed, because it's so obvious that that's an issue for him, and it just seems inconceivable that they wouldn't have had lengthy conversations about that.
Well, this could be an error. If it doesn't slow down, he does not want to get this straight. He is young. Distance doesn't bother him too much, but would have liked a little more angle on this pink 4 to get up for the purple 5. Yeah, so maybe put a touch of right on this to straighten the cue ball out instead of left. He went with the left ball. Brought the cue ball more downward toward the rail. Now, going to come 2 rails out, it looks like. Evaluating. I think that's the safer route than trying to draw it out 2 rails. His stroke is very close to his brother's. Now that needs to settle. It's going to end up near perfect. You can't ask much more than that from that situation. This is a shot these guys play quite a bit. It all depends on exactly how it's laying. He could punch 2 rails tight up in towards the 9. That way it doesn't give him an opportunity to roll off or skid a low right ball. But I don't know his style, so let's see how he plays this ball. He's overcut it, Michael, and he tried to play it the way I said, and maybe that was the wrong shot. He's kind of gotten away with it. I don't even know if Tyler can really get a piece of this. If he can, how much can he get?
Just still keeping an eye on the defending champion Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. He's now 4-2 behind against Kyle Amoroto.
Yeah, and this is a match we also talked about on stage just a few moments ago. Amoroto, young, fearless, hungry to beat the world number one. I think it was you, Michael, that mentioned to me, or Phil, it was probably Phil, but probably came from you. If FSR doesn't finish in the finals or better of this event, we will have a new number one in the world.
Well, it's just massive points on offer, isn't it? Because it's all prize money based, so it's very unlikely, put it this way, that whoever wins this championship won't be number one in the rankings at the end of it.
Yeah, and I think FSR has held that ranking for a long time. I don't know exactly how long, but quite a while. And this was a great shot as long as he kept him covered. But FSR has held that world number one spot for months at least. I mean, 6, 7, 8 months, I believe.
Oh, it's longer than that.
Okay.
Oh, much
So
longer.
has it been since his run 2
Yeah,
years ago?
Well, so basically, the rankings started at the beginning of 2022, and it was basically just the points started to accumulate over the course of the next 2 years. I think he had a brief spell at number one quite early on in that, then got knocked off, and then got back there in late 2022.
Got it.
He's been there since.
Yeah, this is tough. He wants to catch the pro side of this ball, hoping he can send the cue ball at least between the gap of the 9 and the 6, maybe get some type of distance. There are good things that can happen here. You just don't want to catch it on the low side of the 5, or our low side. A little surprised he's not elevating and drawing off of the bottom half of that ball, or our top half of that ball. Yeah. Well, it's gonna give him a shot, I believe, and that was the only concern, is if he caught the low side, the cue ball was gonna come down with the 5. So he caught it a little thin. Like what he had in mind, though. If he catches it a fraction thicker, that 5 gets down to the bottom rail. Cue ball probably ends up behind the 7. Big opportunity for Styer to capitalize and go up 3-2 here. And there are certain situations where I feel like he just tries to do a little too much. I want people to understand I'm not picking on him. He and I are friends. But a lot of people have discussed it. His patterns at times, like previous, he went 3 rails where he could have gone 1. He just really makes it hard on himself sometimes. When he keeps it simple and executes, he can be the best in the world. Great strike there.
Yeah, there was no doubt there was a general improvement in his results throughout last year. He was finding a bit more consistency. I mentioned that run at the European Open. He had a fine win there against Skylar Woodward, who of course had such a solid 23. It was Mario He who eventually denied him a quarter-final spot. Not long after that, as you pointed out earlier, Scott, he won the Texas Open. So it wasn't just like he had 1 or 2 good events last year. He had a lot of solid performances throughout 2023.
So like here, he's looking to come around 2 rails to the right side of the 9. And I feel like sometimes he wants to send that cue ball or make that cue ball work more than it needs to. No, I like this play. Keep it simple. I think it's a simple play. Very little cue ball movement. You ensure making the 8. All is well.
So as ever on a big shot, taking a moment to get himself prepared. And by winning 3 racks in a row, Tyler Styer now leads for the first time in the match at 3-2. I think it's fair to say the sizable Saudi Arabian contingent have probably performed better over the first couple of days of this championship than we might have anticipated. There are 4 of them still in it. Only one of those is undefeated, and that's Abdullah Al-Shamari. And he's got his work cut out to preserve that because he's currently 5-1 down to Ko Ping Han. Konrad Yusushin 3-2 up on Oliver Sholnocki. Alexander Kazakis now leading 4-2 over Levan Corteza. Dimitri Yungo and Kwo Po Cheng level at 2-all. Chris Melling now a couple ahead of Aloysius Yap at 4-2. Marco Teutcher 4-1 up on Pong Nam Pham. Dennis Graba leads by the same score against Daniel Maciol. Johan Chua has won rack 6 to get back to 4-2 behind against Jason Shaw. Hona Suto now leading Ralph Souquet 3-2. And Ko Pin Yi, former winner of this championship, 5-1 up on Roland Garcia. Tyler Styer, one of 7 Americans in the winners' qualification round.
Well, that's pretty impressive, Michael.
Yeah, and in losers' qualification, you've got 3.
Yeah, that's very impressive. So the Americans showing out so far. Well, as soon as we brag on him. Misses the 1 in the top left. That was a mishit there. Fluked it into the top right. But for the Americans and for the American fans, I think that's a really positive sign.
Well, it was funny, you know, as we were coming away from Alexandra Palace in London last December, there was a bit of despondency in the American camp, understandably so, because they'd been beaten quite heavily by Europe. But you actually struck a more upbeat tone. You felt there were a lot of positives for the American game in general, and indeed, even from that Mosconi specifically. So why was it that you felt that way?
Well, I think that we can learn from our mistakes, right? That's the most important thing, is really evaluating what went wrong. We have the talent, we have the ability. I think the biggest part is finding out more about ourselves and really becoming a team. It truly is a different world growing up in America than it is growing up in Europe. But if you just take a look at what the Europeans are doing, it's okay to emulate that. I think there's a lot of hope for America in the future, especially with the young ones coming up, Sam Henderson, Shane Wolford, Fedor Gorst. I mean, we talk about Fedor Gorst, Michael, like he's 45 years old. He's 22? It's
24.
24. It's insane how young he is, right? He's going to be around for another 25 years. So I think there's a lot of hope for Team USA.
Yeah, plenty of hope for Tyler Styer in this rack after that fine shot he played, as we were talking there, potting the 2 and getting on the 3.
Yeah, and I think this all stems from the decision. I know it sounds silly, but the simple decision he made on the 8 last game. He considered, it was running through his brain to send that cue ball 3 rails. Instead, he just took a little longer shot on the 9 and punched the 8 in. I think making simple decisions like that can really get his mind in the right place. And from there, his game starts to come up as you're watching him. Like this, for instance, he's not panicking here. He's willing to take the cut, willing to take a little longer shot, sacrifice that to make the out easier once you get this down. I think that's the right way to play it if you're Tyler Styer.
It's got to be frustrating for Kaçi in his chair there, only 18 years of age. You want to be doing things, you don't want to be sitting in your chair, and That's hard enough against any opponent, but against someone who's as deliberate and measured as Styer, it must be very frustrating for him. But that's not Steyer's problem. In fact, that's very much what he's trying to achieve. However, that has let Kaçi back out of his chair.
Yeah, and I think Steyer's gotten away with this. And that's one of the reasons Tyler likes to really run his cue ball. He's not a huge fan of taking the tougher shot to get back in a good position in the game. He'd rather try to get closer to his work. I think he made the right decision. He just missed the ball. It's going to happen. You're not going to make everything you shoot. I do think he was a favorite to make that, though. He hit it pretty poorly. A lot of good things can happen here if you can kick 3 rails behind this 5 or even 2 rails behind this 5. He's probably going to go 1 rail at it or even take the jump on. It feels like he can utilize the 6, 8, and 9. He was actually going for the make. So you've got to wonder if that has anything to do with being 18 years old. Alban Ocean would have definitely kicked that ball 1 rail, trying to use the 6, 8, and 9. But that's why we're here. Different styles make for fun pool. Big work to do here, Michael. I think at best, if he could just elevate and stop, he would be happy. Trying to draw this ball back could really introduce a miss. I believe he's going to give it a go. Look at this decision. That needs to settle. Yeah, that needs to settle. That is going to sting. Tyler not handling that decision very well. I'm not quite sure what he was trying to do. I don't know if he was actually playing the bank or if he was trying to use the 6, 8, and 9. I would assume that's what he was trying to do and just overhit the ball. Boy, thought he was going to take a chance at running out there. You really hate to go down playing a safety when you're staring down the pipe of an offensive shot.
Do you feel that was a case from Styer again of not just doing the simple thing, overthinking it and coming up with the wrong decision?
It's very possible. You can see it in his game. His mind tends to run and run quickly. Big shot here for Kledio. I like the time he takes. I like how he gets off the ball. It's something we teach amateurs all the time. When you're down on the ball and you get that negative thought in your mind or you feel like you're not going to make it, you've got to regroup. You've got to get off the ball, reset. Never pull the trigger until you're ready, until you're committed, until you know that you're going to make that shot. Well, this ball didn't roll off. What a hit that was. Looks like he's going to draw this back 3 rails.
More news on the defending champion Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. He's been in a battle early on with the young Philippines player Carl Amoroto, but FSR has now drawn level there at 4-all.
Yeah, it's a good sign for FSR. I feel like he's starting to really get closer to back to where he was. Didn't want to make contact with that 9 like that. I think he wanted to flick the top side of it. But FSR, back to him. I feel like Michael, he's not done yet with his big runs. I think he's got a good chance to do well in this event still.
Tyler Styer made a questionable decision. It didn't work out for him. Kledio Kaçi got the opportunity, and having lost 3 racks in a row, the young Albanian has won that one, so we're level again at 3-all. In fact, a lot of the matches are level at the moment. Told you about FSR and Amorato. It's also 4-all now between Alexander Kazakis and Levan Corteza, who's charging back there. 3-all between Oliver Sholnocki and Konrad Yusashin, and the same score between Dimitri Jungo and Kwo Po Cheng. Chris Melling now 5-3 in front of Aloysius Yap. Marco Teucher is also at 5. He leads Pong Nam Pam 5-2. Dennis Graba just with the edge over Daniel Maciol at 4-3. Ko Ping Han has a 5-2 advantage over the only Saudi Arabian player involved in this round, Abdullah Al-Shamari. Jason Shaw leading 5-3 over Johan Chua. Honus Suto has a 4-2 lead against Ralph Souquet. And the former champion Ko Pin Yi leading 5-2 against the former world runner-up, Roland Garcia. So, no clear front runner in the race to be the first through. Everyone's still got plenty of work to do. So 2 balls down off Kaçi's first break of the match. None at all from his second. Let's see his third.
Oh, much better strike there. This is reminiscent of the big brother. Really flicked the top side of that 9, but the action on the balls were so pure. Look at this layout.
He's done quite a lot of the work already. Only 6 balls left for him to dispatch here.
Yeah, and this will really get you going. Come with a good shot here on the 2, 1 rail out for the 3 in the right middle if you'd like. You can play in the lower right corner. Got to capitalize here. Oh, he had room to hold it to the left middle. Even better. 8 has plenty of room past the 9. Should be able to mark this one up. Yeah, that's something I've also noticed is this young man's break. When he hits them pure, the results are pretty staggering. Very mature for 18 years old. You mentioned it, Michael.
You see it though, don't you, with people who become big stars at such a young age in various sports. You hear them talk. There's generally a real air of someone who's been around a while and seen a bit of life, which really at the age of 18 you've not seen much, have you? But seems to have a real maturity about him. His older brother, of course, was one of the best in the world at a very young age. So very simple 9 to complete a very swift rack. 2 in a row for Kaçi. He's ahead again against Tyler Styer at 4-3. Well, that rack was so short. I'm not sure a great deal has changed in any of the other matches. I do know Ralph Souquet, the champion of 28 years ago, has got one back against Honus Suto, so the Spanish player now leading 4-3 in that one. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has won the 9th rack against Kyle Amorato, the 21-year-old from the Philippines. So FSR hits the front at 5-4. Have you had a chance to look across to Chris Melling there, Scott? Is he still struggling to walk?
I don't know that I can see him.
Yeah, he's close enough that we can see him, but a lot of things in the way. Yap is the one at the table at the moment anyway in that match. That really will be an astonishing performance if Melling turns that 5-3 lead into a victory, given that he can hardly walk at the moment.
Well, you look at other athletes like, well, let's just use an example, Michael Jordan in the flu game, and there's a lot of different times where athletes will just rise up to the occasion when things get really bad. You know, maybe it's his time.
Tyler Styer has taken a timeout. Another score to update you on. Konrad Jusashin of Poland now leading Hungary's Oliver Szolnoki, who's had a couple of good runs in this championship in the past, by 4 racks to 3. Abdullah Al-Shamari of Saudi Arabia, one of 4 players from the home contingent still in this championship, has got it back now to 5-3 behind against Ko Ping Han. Remember, it's 9 the target in all these early matches. Once we get to single elimination, every match will be raced to 11, except the final, which has now been increased to race to 15. It'll almost feel like having to go and win it and then win it again. And there's been so much talk about the prize fund here. It's $1 million. A quarter of that goes to the winner. And it is going to be so interesting to see towards the end of the week. The prize money differentials are absolutely massive, way beyond what these players are normally used to playing for. Who's going to crumble in the face of that? Who will still be able to play their natural game? Just a reminder of the main matches coming up later in the afternoon on the main tables. Darren Appleton and Ko Ping Chung, both US Open champions. Appleton's been a winner of this title as well. They'll meet on the main table. On this table, it'll be a transatlantic clash between Billy Thorpe and the very promising young German Moritz Neuhausen. Another promising young European is Kledio Kaçi, and he's breaking with a 4-3 lead. And again, for the 3rd time, it's multiple balls down off the break. Just as importantly, he's got a shot at the 2. So I think he'll be more than happy with how they've settled here. Jason Shaw, the first player to 6-3 up on Johan Chua. Well, that had the look of being the key shot of this rack. If he pots that 2, gets on the 3, more likely than not, it's another break and run. As it is, he's missed it, but has he had a bit of a result here? Defending champion Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has gone 2 clear now against Kyle Amoroto, 6-4.
Unlucky, Michael. He hit it pretty good. Had to land on top of that ball.
Well, it's double misfortune, really, because he was unlucky even to be hooked on the 2 anyway, off Kaçi's previous shot.
I believe the 3 passes the 5 in the lower left. If not, he could play this rail first if he'd like. Definitely goes in the lower right. Even go into the ball with a low right ball. It's a little riskier. Now he's looking at the 3 to the lower right. See how he decides to play this. Only problem with hitting it like this is the cue ball could get away from you. Well, you can't do too much better than that. From where he was, very tough to control the pace of the white there.
That run he had at the Spanish Open, sometimes when you see players come through surprisingly, they've been helped along a bit by the draw. Well, not a bit of it for him in that instance. In fact, it was a tough route even to get to single elimination, including a win over Mohamed Soufi, who'd been in the world final just a few months earlier. And when he got to single elimination, beat Christos Papageorgiou. That wasn't particularly surprising in the last 64, but then that win over Styer, and he pushed Skylar Woodward pretty hard in the last 16. The American just finished strongly and won 10-5. So it wasn't a case of just being fortunate to pick his way through the draw there. He actually showed his credentials in every sense.
Yeah, I really like the way he just played this shot. You talk about keeping it simple. Most top players, they like to keep it simple. The least cue ball movement, the better. Minimizes your chances for mistakes. Yeah, a little light there. It's going to be fine. He's close to it. I was just alluding on minimizing your cue ball movement. I think he's got to go over to the long rail and back out here. He might be able to hold it from this angle, though. Yeah, he's able to hold it. Just going to take a little bit of a cut on the 8. Shouldn't be any issue.
You know, with apologies for constantly referring to the fact that he's got such a well-known older brother, you would have to say he plays at a much faster, more fluent pace than Eklund.
Yeah, I would agree. At least as of late, I've seen Eklund get into a pretty quick pace or pretty quick mode at times when he's really comfortable. He played in my room about 6 years ago and broke and ran 8 racks the entire set versus one Alex Pagulayan. Man, he just kept on with it. And that table that he broke in and run 8 racks on was 4-inch pockets as well. And that's on YouTube.
So Kledio Kaçi was 2 clear at the start of the match, then fell behind, but with 3 in a row, he's now 2 ahead again of Tyler Styer at 5 racks to 3. Oliver Szolnocki and Konrad Yusushin are 4-all. So are Alexander Kazakis and Levan Corteza. Kuo Po Cheng, twice runner-up in this World Championship, leading Dmitry Yungo 4-3. Is Chris Melling going to pull off the miracle? He needs now 6-4 over Aloysius Yap. Marco Teucher is also on half a dozen racks, leads Pong Nam Pam 6-2. Dennis Graba and Daniel Maciol have been having quite a tussle on table 9, and it's the Estonian Graba who leads 5-4. Koping Han 6-3 up on Abdullah Al-Shamari. Jason Shaw leading Johan Chua by the same margin. Hona Suto has now gone 5-3 up on Ralph Souquet, and it's also 5-3 in favour of Kopin Yi against Roland Garcia. So you're right up to date.
Yeah, thank you for that, Michael. And highlighting Shaw and Chua, well, we all predicted, Jeremy, Carl, and myself, that Shaw would get the better of that. It still remains to be seen, but looks good.
Yeah, beat Chua, of course, on his way to the Hanoi Open title back in October.
Yeah, a little quick in the backswing there. See how quick he was there in that backswing? Timing a little bit off.
So after potting 5 balls in total from his last 2 breaks, none at all for Kaçi that time. And a chance for Styer to start making something happen here as he looks to try to prevent the Albanian pulling away.
Yeah, exactly. You get the sense this is almost a must-win game for Styer. He knows it. You don't want to flirt with being 3 games down in a race to 9, especially mid-match. Yeah, pretty good beginning here. This is going to end up nice. Like to get nice and tight on this 3. Yeah, like so. Very good. Went through it, didn't decelerate at all. That's a shot that you're, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, I don't want to overhit it. And the next thing you know, you decelerate and leave yourself in trouble. He went through the ball nicely. Work from the 4 to the 5. He's got to get good here. And he's done just fine. He can come 2 rails tight to the 3rd rail here on the lower right side. This is pretty standard for Styer. Suits his style. I wouldn't be too concerned about the other object balls. Stay focused. Wants to get off this rail. He doesn't want to end up on the rail. He doesn't want to end up straight. Thought he would come down a little further and get to this 3rd long rail. He's going to be okay. Just a little extra work. That was a situation where you really couldn't come too long, but you could come too short. Well, what a clean hit that was, Michael.
Well, it's been impressive stuff, this rack, hasn't it, from Styer so far, because as he came to the table, it's not like they were sitting in a routine fashion. He's had a few questions to answer here, and he keeps coming up with them. Really should see it out from here now and get back to only 1 behind.
Yeah, the first shot he came with on the 1 was key.
And just seems to have flowed a touch more in this than he did earlier on, and you're seeing the results of that. There were enough challenges posed by this rack without him going looking for imaginary ones. Yeah, good stuff from Tyler Styer, and he's back to only 1 behind now at 5-4. Well, for all our talk about Francisco Sanchez Ruiz and his early struggles against Kyle Amoroto, he may now be the first player through to winners qualification, because he's only a couple of racks away from victory at 7-4 now. Oliver Sholnocki 5-4 up on Konrad Yusishin. Ivan Corteza has completely turned it around to lead Alexander Kazakis 5-4. Kwo Po Cheng 1 ahead of Dmitry Yungo at 4-3. And Lucius Yap has taken rack 11 to get back to 6-5 down against Chris Melling. Marco Teucher leading 6-2 over Pong Nam Pham. No change, Dennis Graba, Daniel Maciol still 5-4 to Graba. Ko Ping Han 6-3 up on Abdullah Al-Shamari. Johan Chua now trails 6-4 against Jason Shaw. Ralph Souquet back to 5-4 down against Honus Suto, and Roland Garcia has won the 9th rack against Ko Pin Yi. And so Ko's lead is trimmed a little to 5-4. Day 3 of the World Championship of 2024 in Jeddah. And this will be the day when double elimination ends. We'll be down to our final 64 by tonight. And we always look out for the draw for the last 64 of these tournaments, and after that it's just a fixed bracket all the way through. It's going to be particularly thrilling, I think, this evening, because so many good players are going to be coming through on the losers' side. Should be some dream matchups in the final 64 tomorrow. Styer breaking, 5-4 down.
pretty good result here. Look at the 5-9 as well. 2 balls to make. Get anywhere back up in the center of the table for the 5-9. Just cinch the 3 here. You don't need to do too much. Made the 1 and 2 in the same pocket, the left middle. You cannot ask for a better opportunity than this. All of your training, all of your hard work comes down to a shot simple as this. Yeah, he put a big stroke into it, and I like the shot, but it gets him in trouble at times. It's not necessarily something you need to do there. Neither here nor there. So far been a great response to the 5-3 lead by Kaçi. And this is going to end up nice. So starting back last game with that long 1 ball Tyler Styer took, trailing by 2 games. Now 1 combination away from tying it up. Putting a lot of thought into this combination. It looks pretty natural. Got to cut the 4 a little. You just want to roll this ball. There's no reason to hit it hard. Oh my goodness. How do you miss this combination? Did you talk yourself out of it, Tyler Styer?
Well, there was a little bit of figuring out to do there, but I really have to emphasize the word little.
It laid pretty natural, Michael. Pretty natural. He's supposed to make that combination 10 out of 10. Not even a question. He knows it.
That's it. I mean, it wasn't one of those where you just get down and play it because you can't possibly miss it. It just had to be figured out very, very slightly. It did not merit that amount of attention, and I think you're right, he just talked himself out of it.
Yeah, I'm very surprised at that. I did mention the time he was taking on it. It didn't require that much time. You can talk yourself out of things, and this is what he does sometimes. And I'm not picking on him. I'm telling the truth.
Yeah, and I do agree, it's one of those you really should always get. And so that could be a really significant moment in the match. It was a chance for a quick kill. It would have taken Styer pretty quickly back from 5-3 down to level again. And now, a chance for Kaçi to steal. Put a bit of distance between them once more.
Yeah, and you get the feeling when Kaçi smells blood, he's all over it. Just gotta wonder what was going through Tyler's mind when he took so much time. If you really thought it was that difficult, then back completely off and regroup. He never did that.
And with that, Kaçi has won 4 of the last 5 racks. He's 3 away from single elimination. So I told you about the defending champion Francisco Sanchez Ruiz getting to 7. It's still 7-4 against Kyle Amoroto. A couple of other players on 7 now as well. Marco Teucher 7-2 up against Pong Nam Pham. Jason Shaw leading Johan Chua 7-4. I actually think that's just gone 8-4. I'll confirm that in a moment. Oliver Shalnoki a couple of racks clear now against Konrad Yusashin at 6-4. Livan Corteza now in front of Alexander Kazakis at 5-4. Aloysius Yap has levelled at 6-0 with Chris Melling. Honasuto 6-4 up on Ralph Souquet, and Copigny leading Roland Garcia by the same score. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz is on the hill now, 8-4 up on Kyle Amoroto, and I can confirm Jason Shaw is also one rack away from victory. He leads 8-4 against Johan Chua. I'm just looking across at Chris Melling now, trying to come to the table against Lucius Yap, and he's moving with slightly more freedom, I think, than earlier, but it's still a struggle for him to walk. He's been to hospital already today with a big problem with his foot. He's been ahead for much of the match against Lucius Yap. It's 6-all there now. I think whatever happens, it's been a heroic effort for him. Back here, Kaçi leading 6-4, make that 7-4. Oh, and I'll tell you what, Scott, however much Tyler Styer was regretting the missed combination in the previous rack, much more so now.
Well, this is what happens, Michael. We all know all too well the pool gods, they are real. The pool gods just did a little deed to Tyler Styer.
Isn't it amazing? About 4 minutes ago, let's say, Styer had a shot that you expected him to make to get level, and now he's 3 behind.
Yeah, you don't even expect. I mean, it was almost automatic. Listen, the combination was not difficult. He made it difficult. All the other shots leading up to that combination in the previous game, those were difficult. He knows it.
Should just mention, by the way, obviously winner is through to final 64. Whoever loses this gets another shot later today in losers qualification, but that will not be easy because the opponent will be Bernie Regalario, the young Philippines player.
And you bring him up, and we also brought him up at the top of the hour at the start of the show. I've expected more from Bernie since the Hanoi Open, and he just hasn't put it together like I thought he would.
So all of a sudden, Kledio Kaçi is only a couple of racks away from making the final 64 of this World Championship.
Well, that's the hit he's looking for. Watch the middle. Yeah, everything's kind of gotten a little funny. 4 and 7. There's a cluster with the 6 and 9. Does he attack? You almost have a little freedom to cut at this ball due to where the 4 and 7 are. Wouldn't blame him for crossing it over and just bringing the cue ball down behind the purple. Yeah, really good. He'd like to have got him wedged right up behind the purple. Keep Tyler off that one rail kick. But if you're Styer, Michael, coming to the table 3 down, instead of an opportunity to go 1 up, if he makes the combination, he's tied and breaking, it can't feel too good.
Another player has made it to the hill, Dutchman Marco Teutcher, who's been steadily improving his reputation over the last 8 months or so. Now leads Pong Nam Pham of Vietnam 8-2. And we have a winner, Jason Shaw, the Hanoi Open champion, is through. He's beaten Johan Chua by 9 racks to 4. So Shaw into the final 64.
Yeah, and that's a good sign for Shaw.
Doesn't get any easier for Chua. He now has to play 2-time winner of this championship, Albin Ocean, in losers qualification later.
Yeah, and there's another one, Michael, that I feel like just isn't at the top of his game. It's kind of been that way since the PLP. One of my favorite players to watch, Albin Ocean. I am really surprised he went that route. I know he could have at least swerved around the 5 and caught the back of the 2. Going the route he went, he took a chance in opening the 7-4 up, and that's exactly what he did. So all things going wrong for Styer. And if you really want to pin him up, which he's considering, you could wedge him right up behind this 8. It's going to play the combination, Michael. Slow roll the 2. You just don't want the 2 to end up on that bottom rail. Makes things completely different.
Yeah, he's 18. He's not interested in wedging anyone up, Scott. They just want to get down and pop balls.
Concur. The only issue is, you know, the 3 being that deep, there is a little risk of following the 2 in, but he's really concerned about that 2 laying on the bottom rail. Now he's considering just taking the 2 on the top left, probably drawing out of the 3, which I think is a probably higher percentage play. Well, now he's going to have a little stretch. I'm surprised he didn't just try and stay on the right long rail, where he knows he's going to catch full ball on the 3 and draw back up towards the 4. Pink 4 in the middle of the table. And we talk about it all the time, Michael. A little tricky at times with that ball deep in the pocket like that.
Yeah, I guess it helped. He wasn't travelling from too far away with the cue ball. And so it was a fairly straightforward positional shot, but he's a good one here on the 4. Should be on the 5 if he gets it.
Yeah, just stop your ball here, really.
Yeah, been pretty effective from that sort of range throughout the match. And now that he's been so again, this is a clear chance to get to the hill.
You've got to kind of feel for Styer. He was in the driver's seat to at least tie the match up. Worked really hard to get there, too. To just let it kind of slip away. I'm not saying the match is over. But boy, it's knocking on the door. Very hard at this level to get more opportunities, especially when one like what Styer had passes you by. In my opinion, Michael, he's played solid.
Oh yeah, totally agree. Remember, he was 3-2 down. He's only lost 1 rack since then. And if he wins 1 more rack, he will be through. That is 8-4 to Kledio Kaçi. He's now won 3 in a row. Carl Amoroto still hanging on against the defending champion Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. It's now 8-5 there. Credit to Abdullah Al-Shamari, one of the 4 Saudi Arabian players left in the championship, but the only one who's still undefeated. And he's giving it a real good go against Ko Ping Han. He's now got it back to 6-4 behind. Oliver Sholnocki is a couple of racks from victory. 7-5 against Conrad Yusashin. Kwo Po Cheng also closing in on a place in the final 64. Been around a long time, Kwo Po Cheng, leading Dimitri Yungo 7-3. Marco Teucher, as I said, is on the hill at 8-2 against Pong Nam Pham. Honasuto Camino 7-4 up on Ralph Souquet, and Copigny needs a couple more racks to finally shake off Roland Garcia. It's 7-5 in that one. So as it stands, Jason Shaw, the former US Open champion, is the only player through to the next round. As I was talking there, Lucius Yap has hit the front against Chris Melling. It's 7-6 in that one on table 2. So, the quest for Tyler Styer is to win all of the next 5 racks. Otherwise, he'll be back for losers qualification later.
Oh, and the 2 lays nice. Everything opened up.
And look at this. The 2 just seems to do everything but drop there. It was getting smacked all over the place, bouncing off the jewels.
Yeah, maybe the only future issue, the 7 to the 8. Maybe the 6 to the 7. But boy, pretty good layout to win this match for the 18-year-old in the shadows of his brother, Eklund Kaçi. I don't think it's going to be long where he steps out of the shadow of his brother. 18 years old, folks.
How good a player were you at 18, Scott?
I just started playing pool when I was 17. So,
wow.
So I wasn't very good. Let's just put it that way. Fascinating to see these young guys. I mean, we're peering over the room, Michael and I, and you've got juniors events going on. There's kids here that are 3 foot tall that are running out. It's unbelievable to see in the direction that pool's headed in. It's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be a pool player. Shout out to Matchroom and everything they've done. They are pioneering the way for play in America and all over the globe.
Well, you might say at the end of a match like this that Tyler Styer will have nightmares about that 4-9 combination he missed in the 10th rack when he had a chance to level. But of course, he won't have time for nightmares because he's got another match to play later today, and it's going to be against another of the exciting youngsters in the game, Bernie Regalario. He's got to win it to stay in the World Championship. All assuming, of course, that Kledio Kaçi finishes the job here. But it looks pretty inevitable now, Scott.
It sure does, Michael, and you've got to give all the credit to Kaçi. He's stayed solid all the way through, no matter what's happened. I feel like he was clearly the better player this match. I'm impressed with him. Very impressed.
Early on, all the indications were that this was going to be a very close contest. It may well have been if Styer had made the 4-9 combo in rack 10. But as it is, from 3-2 down, Kledio Kaçi has won 7 of the next 8 racks. He's finished it off with a run of 4 in a row. And with that, Kledio Kaçi defeats the US Mosconi Cup player Tyler Styer by 9 racks to 4. And he is through to the final 64 single elimination stage of this World Championship.